Seems okay. 9 gang, the usual suspects are here. Okay, what have we got? Some of our show and tell stuff. Let's get out of the way for now. We have a floater this morning. Look at that. Almost floating. Not quite in perfect condition. We get a little shy already. Is the audio, you tell me, do I need to change stuff? The air conditioner outside is running. My fan is running here. But do we have a problem with the local audio? Very snowy. That's probably going to be the fan here. Okay, let's get to work. You know where we were at, picking up from yesterday. Ah, yeah, it looks like a hole under the pole today, that's right. That's right, that's my internet access, you know, that grate under there. That's where the fiber optic lines all converge from the local buildings here, from the central station. it's interesting, I watched, we talked about this before, I watched the day the guy put our fiber in there, he opened it up to connect our fiber up, and it's really, really cool. It's an open space. You lift the grate up and there's an open space like a well. It doesn't go down too far, it goes down about maybe a meter or so. It's just a hole in the ground. And out of the side of that hole comes like a pipe. It's an open pipe with a bunch of fiber and stuff coming out of it into a junction box. And it's all open, but there's water in this thing. And it's great. They've got a cover on it that goes upside down and it pushes the water down. So this stuff is all actually open to the water that flows through there. But because it's in upside down cups, I don't know how to describe it, that keeps it from getting wet. But I was really quite surprised when I saw it. The individual parts are not sealed, they're just upside down so they don't get drowned. Actually, we need some, I think we need some sharpening here. These ice cube, I didn't sharpen them. Which if I want to break up the rhythm of the work, but this one here, it's really not so sharp. Should we do that? We haven't done this in a while. Let me just cut back here. I've got to sharpen a couple of these tools. Let's do a few more. I usually do these in batches, so any given one just starts to get a bit dry, so I just do the whole batch as a group. So it's splintering. So this is what I said. Instead of just smoothly slicing, it's splintering. So. Okay, there's no broken blades here, so we don't need the strong 400 stone. We're not changing the shape of the blade here. We're just cutting back on the edge here. You saw the video last Monday, right? He had his elbow on his bottom. This is different, eh? I'm not trying to keep this flat. I am rolling this. I'm trying to do it in slow motion. Of course, we're going back and forth. We're looking at two curves here. There's a curve this way, and the blade is also curved this way. So, of course, we're getting that part this way, and I'm rocking it bit by bit like this as I move. I do it in slow motion, coming up and back. And you can see it's all shined up now. This is the part that's just been done, except the tip hasn't changed. So I've been keeping it, I've been down a bit too far. I've got to put it up just a bit to get the tip. We've got a burr on the back and a finger on the flat side. I can feel zzz, there's a burr at the back, so the metal is actually bent over. Let's just save it. these wider ones, the 6, 3 and the 2, doing the back side, keeping it flat, because the blade has some width, as you rub it back and forth it pretty much stays flat. So it's okay, I've got the back side. But when you get down to this one now, the 1, I could not get this flat when I was trying to do this. The blade has some thickness this way and it wants to wobble and roll. So I always have trouble. And it's funny, when I saw that video the other day from Ito-san, he didn't mention of how to do this, and I'm sure he told me. So maybe it was in the later visit. We visited again in 1998, and I had no video of that. But what he showed me in one of those visits was this. I mentioned this, and I got trouble doing this as I do the back side. And he said, here's what you do. And he rummaged around on the floor, and he grabbed a piece of cherry wood that had been, obviously just flicked off one of the blocks. And he put it down like this. And he used the cherry wood as an outrigger, like this, to keep the tool flat. That's stopping it from wibbling, wobbling this way. We don't need to cut very much wood anyway. And there it is, bingo. And that side is flat. But every time I tried to do it freehand, it rolled and wobbled and rolled and wobbled. There you are, tip from the long dead master. He also did something else, I don't know if you noticed it, but I should be doing it, but I'm not. When he worked on his, when he worked on his main stone, the one he used sideways, he put a nagura on top and flattened it. I translated, I put subtitles in that did that. Then when he moved to his finishing stone, he put his finishing stone on the bench to do the backside, and he used a different nagura stone. He didn't specifically explain that to me, but over the years I realized this, that when you're working from a stronger stone to a medium to a finer, you have to be really careful not to what's the word? Not to pollute your smaller stones. Again, with this steel one, it doesn't matter so much, but if you sharpen on your strong steel stone, your 800, your stone 800 or so, and you took the nagura, then you moved it down to your 400 stone, there's going to be big particles from that strong stone, and they will scratch the finer stones. Now, it doesn't matter for me here, the steel stone is not losing particles. But if I took the same nagura on an 800 stone, and then put that same nagura on the fine stone, you're going to have particles that will scratch it. So he used a different nagura stone for his main sharpening and for his finishing. I'm using the same one. I got a mod message there. It didn't like the word Nagura. Somebody spelled Nagura wrong. It's Nagura. The Twitch system stopped it for some reason. Is that a bad word in some other language? Nagura? I don't know. blades are so small, it just takes seconds, because there's so little amount of steel being cut here. I remember watching Shimano-san, the block maker, you know, he had these big plane blades that are like 10 centimeters, 15 centimeters wide. And I watched him one day sharpening his set of 5 planes, going through stronger, medium, fine sharpening stones. And it took easily an hour or something, I don't know. Okay, I think we're good to go. Cool. Okay, sorry about the distraction. How often do I sharpen the chisels? I'm not sure there's no number to put on it. I know sometimes not often enough. You know, that one actually was misbehaving there. I should have done this sometime sooner. I don't know. What can I say in numbers? I know when they get dull. I know it's going to change what kind of angle you use, how hard the wood you're working with is. If you feel it's not cutting well, and you saw it was splintering the wood then rather than slicing the wood. The main one I sharpen much more often, of course, but these ones, well, you don't use them as much. Any guesses? What's he delivering? The Pocky place is closed. The oyster restaurant's still closed. It's not the Oshimori truck. Didn't recognize the guy's uniform. Ooh, did we see the delivery? I don't know what it was. I didn't recognize the guy. questions, not sure. Delivery across the street, sorry. Who's this Mr. Littlefields? I guess I've got some emails from you in my email box waiting for answers. Sorry. I'm triaging the box every day. Now, there's a couple of emails from you that I should be answering, so hang in there. I'll try and get to it. It's literally triage, you know. So. There's lots of overlap onto the lines on a print like this for a couple of reasons. We're going to be printing this with a pretty black, pretty dark key line. Some of our prints, and we harp on this quite a lot, the older Edo era, Meiji era prints, the key blocks were printed for the most part without such a thick, rich black. They were quite grey, many of them. Moving into the 20th century, the reproduction guys started using really dark black for all of the key blocks. It's just a different style and a taste. And the darker the key block is, the more leeway you have when you're doing your color blocks with the how far to go into the black line. And if the black lines are only going to be a soft gray, you have to be really careful if you've got a color that can sometimes be darker than the key line. So if this is a dark blue or something, and if you overlap into a gray key line, the key line space gets quite spoiled. But these little chibi prints we're going to be printing with quite a dark key. So anything that's inside that key is going to be invisible. So this color block here, I can bring it out a little bit or a little bit more, a little bit more. It won't matter because it's going to be totally and absolutely invisible. But if you've got a different structure for your key block, if it's not going to be a rich dark black, you have to be careful how much you overlap the color blocks. Are we done cutting? Is that it? That's the chopsticks done. The fish shape is all cut. The shadow on the fish around. This shadow, the kamaboko, wherever it is, the tray. Oh no, in the soup. So. Soup. You're going to cut all these parts. So cut. I'm listening to us do this before we forget this part. I thought we were finished, ready for the next step. Sorry. We have show and tell today. We have a couple of things. In fact, we have some quite varied stuff for show and tell. Nothing large and dramatic. A couple of things that will be interesting, and something that's totally, absolutely different from any show and tell we've had before. It's a bit of a guest show and tell. There's also in one of the things we're going to show today, I found there's a bit of an Easter egg in it. And this was news to me. This is something the craftsman here did without me knowing about it. They would assume that I wouldn't see it, and even if I saw it, I wouldn't know what it was. As it turns out, I got a bit lucky, and I did notice it. And I didn't know what it was, but I did a bit of research and found out. But should I now show you that, just leave it. And I think what I'll do is, not to be a tease here, but I think I will leave it because having an Easter egg in one of our subscription prints, well, it's not an Easter egg if you tell anybody, is it? So we'll leave it like that. One of the things we're going to show today is one of our subscription prints, and there is quite the Easter egg in there. And now that I've told you that, that's about all I should say about it. happy Mother's Day to all of our Twitch stream moms. My own mother might be here. She was going to come on this morning. She goes for a walk with my sister at just about the time this Twitch stream starts. My sister grabs her and goes for a walk. But I believe my mother is going to be coming in here on Mother's Day. Are you here today, Mom? Did you get back from your walk? Silence, maybe not back yet. Also, I'm not sure about her ID now. She has two different IDs here. Nope, not yet. Still in her walk. Can't catch all this. Something to mention here. There's somebody's name I've never seen before here. This is Mr. Littlefields. This is new, but based on what he mentioned in the chat here just a minute ago about posting images on Flickr, those of you, some of you might have seen the other day on our own blog, Mocha Hong Kong Conversations, I posted a picture of an old carver's workshop from 1910. I had seen it a few days ago from the Flickr stream put up and was sourced by this gentleman here. The name again I've lost. Blah, 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 blah. Mr. Littlefields, whatever. He may mention his real name here or not. I don't know. I can't, the rules don't let me tell you his real name. If he says it, it's okay. Anyway, he has a Flickr photo stream with a bunch of images of old woodblock prints and photographs and stuff from Meiji era. And on his Flickr stream, there was a link to this old Meiji era photograph, which I quickly, oh my God, look at this, we showed it to our staff, we put it up on the blog. So if you've seen it the other day in the Mocha Hong Kong Conversations, that picture of 12 guys in a printing workshop all beavering away. And there's lots of questions. My God, on the blog there I posted a bunch of questions, and since then we've been looking at it, some of this really doesn't make sense. I don't know, Koka, that magazine, it was a mix of photographs and colotype and some woodblock prints and some woodblock prints that were partially colotype, partly printed. It was a real mixed bag of stuff. But they published basically during that era 1, sometimes 2 woodblock prints in each issue of the magazine, and sometimes the cover was woodblock printed. So they needed a bunch of printing. But the magazine was, I believe, monthly. I'm not quite sure about this, with 1 or 2 prints in it each time. And yet we see 12 guys in that room beavering away, beavering away, beavering away. 12 guys with stacks of prints. And if they only published 24 prints a year, and we've got 12 guys in the room printing there, things don't quite add up. Some things do add up. Those prints had tons and tons of colors. Some of the ones they did with a colotype key block and then woodblock printed color, there are literally uncountable numbers of colors. Certainly many, many, many dozens, possibly into the hundreds. And I don't know the circulation of the magazine at in any given year. Of course, I don't know if anybody has those figures. But it could be, this is an unverified assertion, it could be that any one of those printers could have been working on some specific print for many, many, many months to get it ready for inclusion in the magazine. If you're just publishing 2 woodblock prints a month, you don't need 12 printers in a room working full-time for you to do it, unless they are a staggering number of colors. There's lots and lots of questions from that photograph. Also, it's 100% natural light. There is no, apparently, we can't quite see up to the top of the ceiling, but it was an era when there were no strip fluorescent lights and stuff. There are no light bulbs hanging over each guy's desk, which means in winter, come 4 o'clock or so, that's it, you're done. So did they only work during raw daylight hours? Really? By 1910, back in the Edo time, yes, there are no light bulbs. But come 1910, to have a printer's workshop with no lighting in it, it doesn't add up. I'm really curious. Lots and lots and lots of questions about that photograph. Post your Flickr link here. You type it in. It's okay. You don't have to worry about spamming the stream here. Post the Flickr link in here if you like. No problem at all. There could have been multiple block sets. This is the thing, because the key blocks are done with colotype, or some cases metal blocks, engraved blocks, or steel engraved blocks, or whatever. There could be, and in the case of the Kuche, we know that the key blocks were run off on a printing press, and then the color blocks were printed in Group A, Group B, Group C from multiple sets. So this could have been the same thing for the Koka. And the only way to find that is to get a bunch of the same print, a whole bunch of the same print, microscopically investigate them and try and find differences in them. Yeah, I've got a few over in my workshop too. The magazine is obtainable. It's not all that expensive. What's expensive is when you try and buy like a 10-year set and stuff like this. Monthly or semi-monthly. Okay, I had monthly, but yeah, whatever, every 2 months too. I don't know. So. Those prints, the woodblock prints that are from that magazine, they're considered trash by the dealers here. They're just considered total trash. Zero value. The magazine itself, when you get a bundle of like the 10 years of the magazine together, that has value to book collectors. But the individual prints, once they've been pulled out of the magazines, they're just trash here. The dealers don't even care. And I get it, partly because they're magazine illustrations, and partly because they're not full woodblock prints. Some of them are mechanically printed, some are, like I said, they're half collotypes or partly collotype. So the dealers here just generally think this isn't the real thing, so they just ignore it. And also the imagery too. These are not ukiyo-e original designs. These are prints that were made in the purpose of reproducing some old artwork. And there's lots of them that they're reproducing an old scroll or a Buddhist sculpture or something, and they're almost always very gloomy, very dark, not attractive at all. They were done in the era before photography, and it was a way of getting imagery. This old statue that's buried in this old temple on the other side of Kyushu, how do you show people? Well, you make a woodblock print of it and put it in your magazine. But they are not, for the most part, not very attractive. The magazine itself is, I believe, still theoretically alive. It's now owned by the Asahi newspaper group. I don't know in what form or shape they're still publishing, if at all. Okay, I think that's it for all the cutting on this. Should we move to a persuading job, or is that going to be too much trouble for the stream? I don't know. Let's see. Have we got it all? Oh no, these two dots have to come up. Not come up, you have to stay. No, the other half. So I was thinking we were done. We're done. Let's zoom up. We're done cutting this color block on one of the two prints, but of course we haven't even started the other one yet. Okay, sorry about that. I was thinking it was time for some persuading. Oh, we're still at it. What's the time? 9 o'clock. Remind me about 9:15 or so. We got some show and tell here. Hey Dave, how are you? I am fine. I'm doing very well. Hibernating. I don't go outside. I just sit here working. So far, I'm okay. Our business is mixed. Parts of it are up, parts of it are down. We're alive. The Asakusa shop is kind of dead. May come back to life one day, may never come back to life, we don't know. Subscriptions are staggering along, and online sales are doing very well. I see somebody mentioned the 8 Views of Cats series, and we've got some more progress on that this week. In fact, last night, I sent the blocks back to Susan for printing of the first one. I've mentioned before, she has had the blocks of the evening snow print for testing. She did a test batch, sent it over, and Chon-san and I recarved. I recarved a new sky block because the wood on the first one was no good and it was not showing a smooth sky. And then Chon-san carved one more grey block for one more of the shadows inside the cat's bodies. And then I carved another block for some more shadows on the cat's face. And that was finished yesterday. I did it yesterday morning and sent it off to Susan around noon. So she will today be now doing the next batch of test printing on the evening snow design. I haven't really been updating every step of this. It's just been, you do the work, but we can't sit here and start logging in photography and everything else. So lots of the work is going on without, people knowing about it. I'm sorry. Most of yesterday morning here, I was carving catwalk. much nicer. I let that sharpening go too long, and that was not such a good thing. Now I got a question about this Baron. The brown color for the skin is going to be, of course, on this area. But the inside disc, should I run the brown under that area as well? I want the disc to get good saturated color, but we don't want it to start looking brown. I think it's okay. I think I'll put it in there. You can always take it out later, so I think I'll leave it in there. It'll help give it some saturation. Because we're going to print this with a pretty strong black anyway, so it should just show mostly black. And we'll see. If it starts to have the wrong tint, we'll just take it out. This isn't going to be brown, it's going to be like a flesh tint, so it'll be okay. It'll just help give it some body. How's our time? Okay, 9:13. Okay, 9:13. Tick, 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 tick. Okay, a couple more minutes, then we'll switch. Okay. What's going on here? Okay, let's have a look at some show and tell. Okay, as I said, a few different things here today. First up, you've seen this kind of thing before. In fact, basically every month now you see this sort of thing. Dei-chan came over last night, delivered a package of prints to me, and this is your first sneak peek at this year's subscription series, the 6th print, which will be the June issue. She's finished her first batch of the 1/3 of them. Ishikawa-san is working on the 2nd/3, and I'm still not quite sure. It'll maybe be Chiharu-san who gets the 3rd of the 3 batches, not sure. And up to last year we didn't show these prints because people who are subscribing we want them to open the package and get the fun of having the package open. But given that the delivery is so screwed up and scrambled, and people are now getting their prints 2 months late and 1 month late and 3 months late and whatever, so we've started posting them online anyway. This is the June print from what we call the GJ series, the Woodblock Pilgrimage print. And Dei-chan and Chon-san have really done a nice number on this. Very quiet, very peaceful. Come on, zoom, why aren't you working here? It's of course European. It's of course, lots of the Ghibli movies have some kind of base in Europe. And when I first saw this from Jed a couple of months ago, a bit of a question at first, because the April print in this year's series is that village in Sweden. The delivery service lady who rides the broom. We saw the village in Sweden that had been the base for the place she lives. And this is something quite similar. It's another European village. And somebody's got it. Mr. Baron Hen has it. It's a very one tiny flash of something from Howl. And when Jed and I originally were looking at Howl's Moving Castle, he sent me a print with a mountain view. But unfortunately, it was just a mountain view. It didn't have the kind of view that we see in that anime with the green, wide, open areas with the mountains in the background. And I didn't reject the image, but I rejected it for that spot in the series. And Jed gave it to somebody else. He gave it to, I think, Steve Woniecki, who carved and printed it for him. And that print, which Jed originally planned for this month, is now on Jed's website. Anyway, let's have a look at this. So of course, we've gone back to a European village, and we have done so in some superb detail. And we have some depth. There's our information. It's carved by Tsoi Wai Chung, Chon-san for us, and printed by, this copy is printed by Dei-chan, the young couple that came to us from Hong Kong. Shadows, depth, delicacy. So it's a Shinhanga type thing, but because it's such a small scale image, we're using 4 pieces of wood both sides. It doesn't have the 50 block complexity of a massive Shinhanga print. And it's interesting, actually, that came up when we did the test printing. Dei-chan, when she was doing testing, really went to town on some of these. And she made a version where she put a gradation right across on every block. So the right-hand side was deeper and richer, and the left-hand side faded away, not to a grayness, but it faded away, and we had a distant feeling, and it was wonderful. But it meant a gradation on every color, maybe 18, 19, 20 impressions, and there's no way I can do that for a small subscription print. So if this had been a full O-band print, we could have made it look much more like a Shinhanga print. But we have to cut and run. We have to get this thing out. I don't have them right here. We've got them in our file. We keep all these tests, of course, on file for guiding future printers. So there's a limit to what I can spend on each one of these. So it sort of limits the amount of beauty in them. But it's okay. This is a really, really nice, beautiful, beautiful object. Anyway, very quiet little scene. Oh. Is there some way to see the Swedish town? I believe it's on the website. It should be now. And this is May, so the 4th month print should be on the website if Cameron has got around to it. If you go to the webpage mokohankan.com/subscriptions, the 4th print, the Swedish town, should be on the website. If it isn't, drop an email to me or Cameron to remind us, because Cameron should be putting those up at the beginning of every month. So, okay, there's the first item in our show and tell. Second item. This is different. This is not a print. This is a book. And it is a considerably rare item. We now have 2 of them here. I'm very glad to have them. This is a very, very nice, rare item. You know what this is? This is a book, and this is not a woodblock printed book. This is just a normal book. It's printed on printing presses and stuff like this. I guess it's, I think it's offset. I don't feel, yeah, it's offset. It was made somewhere in the late 60s. There's no date on it, and I don't know exactly when it was done. Printed in the late 60s. And it was a private publication put together by a group of men who were ukiyo-e printers, but who also had a real interest in our baron. And one of them, Murata-san, here's the names here. We have Murata-san, he was actually making barons himself. Hirai-san, I don't know. Nakajo sensei, well, I call him sensei, Nakajo-san, he was an older printer, he's long dead now. He really was very helpful to me back in the early days when I was here. And Kobayashi is another printer who I never met. So Nakajo, these first 3 guys were printers, and the 4th one was a printer for Adachi, and also he made barons. And these guys, back in this time, the 1960s it would be, they were worried that the technology of making these barons was going to be lost. Nobody had documented it. Goto-san, who is now doing it, and who has himself written a book about this, was just still a little kid at that time. So these guys took their own money and their own time, and they created a book putting together everything that they knew and had learned about making the barons. And where are we here? And they put it together in a way that it looks like an old book. Now this isn't an old hand-carved book, but they've put it together in the same kind of structure. It's string-bound in the middle, and it's offset printed. And they put in everything they knew about baron making. They just try to simply document it. Now if you have just the documents yourself, you can't do it, but they at least made sure they tried to get all the detail here. And this book is a little treasure. It's full of anecdotes. And they talk about this lady. Her name is in here. I'm not going to start hunting for it now. But there was, quote, a little old lady in a little district of downtown Tokyo who was so good at wrapping these coils, these baron strings, that you could take her baron and use it as a brand new baron, and it worked perfectly. Normally when we tie these coils, a bit thin, a bit thick, a bit thin, a bit thick, and there's some high spots. So when you first start using a baron, it's got some high spots, they scratch the print, you have to open it, tap them down, tie it, and do it again. And she had a reputation of being so good at this, you could use her barons just straight up, straight out. I don't know about the cat. I don't, whatever. The illustrator's name may be here somewhere. I don't know anything about that. I'm sorry. But the person they got to illustrate this thing obviously had some kind of sense of humor, because we have. Is it a Picasso cat? You tell me. I don't know. No idea. No idea. It's an absolute gold mine of information. An absolute gold mine of information. When I first got, I've got 2 copies of this now. When I first got my original copy years ago, I thought what I should do is we should just have this translated and get it online, because these guys are all dead now. Nobody's worried about the copyright, stuff like this. And it's still a project that's just sort of sitting on the back burner. There's no way you could drop this into Google Translate, because for one thing, it's an old-fashioned type of writing, and second is it's such a, what's the word? It's all technical language about making barons, and there's no way Google Translate will have the slightest idea, or any way, how to do this. So at some point, step 1, I guess, would be to at least cut the strings, flatten it out, scan the pages, get it preserved, get it online so everybody can at least look at it, and then maybe crowdsource the translation or something. I don't know. It's very, very difficult to understand Japanese. This Japanese, because it's so technical, you know. But the amount of information that's in here is just to die for people that have an interest in this sort of thing. A lot of it we know. Every printer in town now knows how to tie the baron skin on. That's okay. But these little tools that they had used and devised to do this. And it must be full of small hints and tricks and points that just you wouldn't know unless you'd had a chance to talk to these old guys. You know? Every now and then this comes up on Yahoo auctions here, and when I see it, I try and grab a copy. That's why I have 2 copies now. Oh, it does have a date. I'm sorry, I said there's no date. It is 1973. Okay, I said 68 or something. Sorry, this is 1973. Absolute treasure, and it's got to be somehow opened and spread out to the world so that the information doesn't just sit in places like Dave's workbench here. Okay, before we head off here, something else I want to show you is my mother. It's Mother's Day here. My mother, I think, she said she was going to be coming into the stream today. Mom, are you there? Say hello, please. Oh, and the JJ page, you just see, okay, Cameron needs to get up to date on that. Then I'll get him going on that. Mom, if you're here, say hello, please. You don't see her, Dave. How do you like that? Mother's Day, and she doesn't come on the stream. I spoke to her this morning by Skype, and she said she would be here. She is here. It's hopeless. This is my mother. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have 2 names here, so we're not quite sure. What I wanted to do was, I said I had a show and tell today. I have another show and tell. My mother sent a picture this morning to the family blog. We have a little private family blog. And she has been quarantined and locked down and nothing to do, nothing to do, nothing to do. She keeps herself busy. She is knitting like crazy. And she sent this picture this morning to the family blog. And I'm sure it's okay if I share this with everybody. These are not doll clothes. These are clothes she has knitted for... It's upside down. No, it's okay. Upside down. And she's knitting like crazy. She's knitting like crazy. I know my mom's eyes these days are probably not so good, so she's probably knitting quite close like this. And she sent these pictures. This is the one that came this morning. And she is super, super busy all day long, knitting, 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 knitting. I've also got a couple of pictures from a few years ago when we have something like this. What my mother did a while ago, and this is, I'm not sure, she can maybe come in here and talk about this. She had tried to get hold of a doll making company in Hong Kong that was making these plastic dolls, the kind that you see here. And she, because she was doing a charity thing for giving dolls to kids here at Christmas, she approached this company in Hong Kong. I guess I helped her with the communication back and forth, and they sent over a huge box of all these dolls. So my mother spent days and weeks and months and months and months knitting all these doll clothes, and then one by one giving them out to charity groups to pass out at the kids' hospitals and Christmas and stuff like that. And it's just crazy. They've all got individual, every style of boot is different, every dress is different, everything's different. Every single doll has a complete, total handmade stuff, you know. I was chatting with her back then, this is probably 10, 15 years ago. Mom, we should do an Instagram page or something, you'd be world famous. And she just says, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And every individual doll has total handmade, hand design stuff. So these are really, really cool. And my mother's not at the stage of life now where she wants to try running a business and doing this and stuff like that, of course, I understand. But this is how she's keeping busy during this quarantine. Well, she did try and put some on years and years ago. This was a charity bazaar or something like this for one of the hospitals. So that's today's output. This is the output from the last few days, the last couple of weeks. All men one was low. Well, here we are. Mom's typing here. Each doll had 3 sets of clothes, and the company gifted me the dolls. Yeah, so the Hong Kong company dumped the dolls on my mother for charity, and my mother spent all this time making the clothes for them. My own kids too got some of these, of course, you know, when my own kids were very small, 30 odd years ago, they received some fabulous doll set from my mother. My mother would get a doll ready, and she says here 3 sets of clothes, but this doll set she made for my own kids had dozens and dozens and dozens. My own kids have grown up now. My older daughter had 2 boys. They're not interested, but they're carefully preserved in a box here, carefully put together. Anyway, Mom, thanks very much for this. Thanks for doing this. There's lots of kids out in the world somehow that must have really just gone crazy when they received these things. So, there we are. There we have it. Okay, it's 9:32. I should now move on and get to the rest of my work. Today's Monday. The next stream will be here Thursday morning. You know what it's going to be. It's going to be more and more and more color carving on the same set of color block, which is supposed to be published in May. It's almost certainly not going to make it. Okay, time for you to go. Thanks again, Mom, for browsing in here. Thanks. I really wish you would join more and type more. You know, people would like to hear from you more and more on this stream. Okay, thanks again. See you guys on Thursday. Signing off for now. Bye-bye till next time. Thank you.